My name is Ronald Edmund Hicks. A ride through Central America always intrigued me. And I had many times asked some of my motorcycle riding buddies if they would like to take the ride. And the answer is always yes. But as the day would come close, one would have to buy braces for his daughter, another one would have to go to a wedding for a cousin. So I finally decided if I'm going to do it, I'm going to go ahead and do it myself. I crossed Mexico at Matamoros, came down into Oaxaca. From Oaxaca south, every mile, the amount of poverty increases, the obvious desperation increases. And by the time one gets to the Guatemalan border, poverty is all around you. There is little other than poverty all around you. Desperately poor people. One of the main memories that stays with me is the border crossings. And the reason for that is because it's a very unsafe environment, especially for a person traveling alone on a motorcycle. The exposure is pretty significant, and those at the border are there to take advantage of the traveler. It was late morning. I had just crossed out of El Salvador and across the river and was in the process of processing into Honduras. There's a blue building there with a whole line of cages. You pick your cage and you stand in line until you get to the person who's going to start the process. So while I was standing in the line waiting to process into Honduras, I felt a little tap on my thigh. And I looked down and there was a skinny little street urchin standing there. She was filthy. She had obviously been cleaning out a fire pit or something else for money for food. And she just stood there. What I saw in her eyes was the same innocent curiosity I saw in my own daughters when they stood this tall. So I reached into my pocket and pulled out some loose change, reached over, I opened her hand and put the coins in her hand. And as I closed her hands over the coins, our eyes met. And that was the image that stayed with me. I obviously made it safely to my destination, which was Costa Rica. I flew back to Atlanta. My wife met me in Atlanta, and on the way back, I mentioned to her that there was an image in my mind of a little girl that wouldn't go away, and I wasn't sure what I was going to do with it. It was probably about 6 weeks later that I was on an airplane. I flew back to Honduras, hired a translator, and went back to the border town in anticipation of finding the little girl. Once at the border town, and it's not that big a town, and the girl was identified pretty rapidly. Her name is Annabelle Padilla. What I expected to find when I returned to Honduras was an orphan. But she was not an orphan. She had a mother, she had a father, she had sisters and brothers, aunts and uncles. There was a whole barrio of desperately poor people that she lived with. The translator and I decided to find the school principal and ask the principal why Annabelle is not in school. Why is she on the border begging for money? And the principal said, well, because she was hungry and she was out searching for food. 60 to 70% of my children come to school hungry every day. And when they get hungry enough, they leave school to search for food because they're hungry. After talking with her principal, I came to understand that this is not an Annabelle problem. This is a systemic problem, a cultural problem. And that's when Lunches for Learning was born.
when the rain is blowing in your face and the whole world is on your case. I could offer